Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Humans in 5. It's just me today, though I'll be waxing poetic on something that I have in common with plenty of people, and that's changing up my hair colour. I really enjoy being able to select hair colours, and I'm very lucky that I have a hard-working styling team in the form of my husband Kyle to help out. Cutting, bleaching, colouring, staining, and changing up your hair is not only a neat way to shift your personal style, but it's also big business. Globally, the hair care industry was worth about $92 billion this year. Hair has a big cultural capital too. Hair fashion changes with clothing throughout history, and to this day, how we style our hair has complex interactions with beauty, historical events, and changing social attitudes. I have naturally dark brown hair, which limits some of the colour options I like without bleaching my hair first. Now, human hair is made up of a tough protein called keratin. Our hair colour is created by two types of melanin: eumelanin, which makes up the brown and black pigments in hair, and pheomelanin, which makes up the red and yellow pigments. Now, bleach oxidizes melanin molecules. It doesn't get rid of the melanin, but removes the pigment by oxidizing it. Now, getting all this oxidizing done is only possible, for me at least, by bleaching my hair twice in a row and then using a color on top of that. That means a good couple of hours with bleach on my hair and my scalp. I usually use a semi-permanent hair color on top of my bleached hair, and I'll probably change my hair up around once a month. Now, the amount of time people spend with these chemicals that are part of colouring our hair has made a lot of researchers curious about their impact on our bodies. There are over 5,000 different chemicals used in hair colouring products, some of which have been reported in scientific studies to cause cancer in animals like mice. Now, researchers saw this result in mice and have since expanded studies to look at the risk of cancer developing amongst people who dye their hair regularly or who work with hair colouring products. A 2010 study, for example, found that hairdressers had a higher risk of developing bladder cancer as a result of working with hair dye products, though the authors did mention that smoking amongst the participants in the study could also have an influence on their results. Now, a study published in the International Journal of Cancer in 2019 looked into whether hair dye and chemical hair straightening had an influence on breast cancer risk amongst black and white American women. The 46,709 participants in this study were between the ages of 35 and 74, and each of them had a sister who had breast cancer, whilst they themselves didn't have breast cancer. The study found that permanent dye use was associated with 45% higher breast cancer risk in black women and a 7% higher risk in white women. Now, looking at these results, you might think that this has got to be the nail in the coffin for hair dye. But contextualizing these numbers with some other studies can help us out a little bit here. Using the same group of participants from the 2019 study, a 2020 study found that women who started their periods and began their breast development at an earlier age than average had a 30% higher risk of breast cancer than women who started developing breasts and started their periods at a more average age. Now, a different study, also published this year, with data gathered on 117,200 women, who are nurses in the USA, found that women who had used hair dye, whether once or regularly, didn't have an increased risk of most specific cancers, including bladder cancer, breast cancer, and kidney cancer. In fact, if you look up studies on this subject on a search item like Google Scholar, you'll see that there's multiple studies that contradict themselves pretty much every year. Now, this doesn't mean that we shouldn't have a think about the products that we use every day, or even once a month, for our hair or for our skin. It's also worth noting that there's a huge pressure on women to invest a lot of time and money in their appearance. As long as that pressure sticks around, people will be changing their hair in lots of different ways. I hope today's episode has you thinking about what it would mean to change your hair up a bit, and I'll see you next time on Humans in 5. And don't forget to subscribe!